again, has been a very supportive partner for many years within Tampa Bay Real Producers. Let me go ahead and bring up another one of our sponsors of our series. Where's Eugenia? I saw her somewhere. Oh, right in front of me, of course. Two men in a truck. Eugenia coming fresh back from the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Decided to hang out with us today.
I did not go to the Super Bowl, but I did have a great time in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. It was epic. But anyway, I'm with Two Men in a Truck Moving Company, and we are your local long-distance moving company. And what I want to say this morning to all the clients and everyone, if you have clients that are moving, give us a call and let us help make your clients move stress-free. Because moving is more stressful than getting a divorce. So let us help make their move stress-free. And remember, if you're looking to move, don't stress and run them up. Pick up the phone and call Two Men in a Truck.
Always count on you for the little catchy jingle there at the end, no doubt. All right, let me go ahead and bring up another one of our partners who helps us on the finance side and helps a lot of our agents, of course, get things to the closing table. And this gentleman is Frank Cotto with Lincoln Lending. And Frank has, if you've probably seen, he's also been featured on one of our podcast episodes here recently. So Frank, I'll have you come up and say hello. Do your thing.
Good morning. Wake up, everybody. That's right. This thing doesn't even work, does it?
Producer, good morning. Glad to see you guys all here. I know I've worked with a lot of you guys. If you've never heard of the company, it's Lincoln Lending Group. We just celebrated our 20th year anniversary of business right here in Tampa Bay last year. And we won Best of the Best Mortgage Company in Tampa. A couple cool things to set us apart. No junk fees. We are a wholesale mortgage brokerage business. We have the lowest rates in town. If you go Google rates right now, it's going to tell you they're in the sevens. That is not true. That is a retail rate. I brought a couple of members of my team here, Javier and Nick, right in the corner. You can go talk to them. They just locked, I know Nick just locked 5.625 on an FHA yesterday. I believe Javi locked 6.125 on a conventional deal. And I do not have any set points for these guys, so they can work with your clients and get them the best deals. If you want to learn more about us, we have a lunch and learn. If you've been to who's been to one of my lunch and learns before? Raise your hand. All right, a couple of you, right? Is it worth your time? Yes. Thank you very much. Next Wednesday, 12:30 to 2:30, we're doing a lunch and learn. I only had a few flyers, so I set some on the table. Make sure you scan it. There's only maybe 10 seats left in this one. If you can't get into this one, I'll get you in the next month's lunch and learn. We're going to be talking about all the products that the banks and brokers don't even know exist, much less the agents. So we're going to teach you how to close more clients with less prospects by having knowledge and more products to offer them. For example, did you know that the VA has no minimum credit score for veterans? It also has no maximum debt ratio. So if the bank you work for or the broker you work with doesn't allow that, then they have what's called overlays. Okay? Did you know that we have no income verification for 5 or 25 unit commercial purchases as well? But the banks won't tell you. We can also do 30-year terms on those. I think that's really it. Last but not least, Javi and I both have radio shows on 970 WFLA that are also podcasts on iHeartRadio. His is Conexion Latina, and mine is the Business Happy Hour. So check out that on iHeartRadio on the podcast, and we can have you as a guest one day. Have a great day, Real Producers.
Let me check this mic. Yeah. Testing. It works, Frank. Come on now.
I'm too loud.
Yeah, you really don't need one. All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring up our panelists now and get rolling. Are you guys excited for the panelists today? So we have 4 rising stars. A rising star in our business is generally somebody who's been licensed, say, less than 10 years, even most of the times less than 5 years. And they've just been crushing it. Usually, in most cases, got off to a very fast start. So you're going to see that thread with some of the people that we bring up here today. And the questions that we're going to be diving into, a lot of them will have to do with like those early years of in real estate, how to get out fast, right? The sub-theme of today's panel is building it big, but building it fast. And as you guys know, in the real estate world, it's not always easy for a lot of agents out there, and many of them struggle, especially in those early years as they're trying to figure out what they're going to do and how to stand out. And so today, you're going to see 4 panelists who have done that. First person I'm going to bring up is none other than Mr. Craig Kellner. Craig is part of the Tony Baroni team. Many of you probably are familiar with Tony Baroni's group. They won the Team of the Year, actually, at our Agent Choice Awards this past year. And Craig, check out this. In his first 60 days as an agent, Craig signed 42 listings. That's pretty hot. 74 got closed in his first full year in real estate. He did over 90 transactions last year in 2023, and with over $40 million in business, and he's personally sold over 650 listings since 2017. Craig is a graduate from the University of Missouri. He was a major in international business. Isn't that like the James Bond major, I figured? Yes, that works. Went into home improvement, remodeling, and then ended up joining the Tony Baroni team. So good to have you here. Let's give Craig a round of applause. Thank you. All right, let's bring up our February 2024 feature, Ms. Bailey Vasti. As you guys were introduced to the frame earlier, Bailey's going to come on up. She was featured in our magazine, as you could see, as a rising star in our February issue. Bailey was born in St. Pete, a USF grad. And in her first year, she was voted, I guess, I don't know if it's a vote or who decides this, but you were Rookie of the Year for Pro in her first year in real estate, which was over $5 million in business. This past year in 2023, Bailey did over $43 million in volume. She was a top 100 producer in all of the Tampa Bay market, so that's like top 1% in all of Tampa Bay. On a personal side, from reading her article, I learned that Bailey also has 5 kids, like myself, so her house is probably a little bit of a zoo, similar to mine, and she represents Next Home Lux Coastal. Let's give Bailey a round of applause. Thanks for being here. All right, Laura, you ready? All right, Laura Varner was our August 2023 feature in Tampa Bay Real Producers. You can check her story out up on our website. Laura is with Remax Alliance Group. Laura has done over $100 million in business over the last, I don't have that number, but I'm assuming it's 5 or 6 years, somewhere in that ballpark. Over $30 million just last year alone. We actually just featured Laura not that long ago on our podcast, so if you wanted to hear her story, you can also check it out there. Things that I was really impressed with Laura about is, as a single mom, you know, she has balance running this high-powered business with raising, how many children again? Yeah, only 5. So 5 kids as a single mom. Her story is really impressive. I remember walking away from our podcast thinking she's like a superwoman, and she really has done some amazing things on a business side too. So let's give Laura a round of applause. Thank you. And then last but not least, Mr. Lei Cheng. Lei was featured in our September issue of Tampa Bay Real Producers, September 2023. And Lei's story is also really cool. Grew up in China, came to the States as a computer science grad at FSU. I'm sure there's a lot of agents who take that path, right? To go the computer science route first. Lei, when I interviewed him recently on our podcast, the thing that really stood out about Lei is the way that Lei's mind works is, he even put it in somewhere in the article I think I read, that he's just like a master of systems. Like, he develops systems that are automated, that can operate, that run themselves really without him having to manually be the heavy lifting of all of the business. And he's done it really since he started as an agent. He has a background as an investor. That's how he got started in real estate, flipping homes and not even flipping actually, but just buying property for rentals. He now is the founder of Rently, that's his brokerage, Rently Home. And he also has 2 boys. He's married to a professor at USF. And I'm sure he'll mention recently he just launched a new app called Service Near, which I think is a great tool for, he's wearing it right now. My man knows how to promote. I'm a fan. Over $20 million in business last year for Lei personally in 2023. So we have some great panelists today. Let's give them a round of applause. Awesome. All right.
Speakers.
So, what we're going to do, I just gave you guys, I think, the bio that they would need to know. So we're going to dive right in with trying to flush out the early years in real estate, right? Like when you first got into it. I'd like to just go through all 4 of you quickly and start with, you know, why did you get into real estate, right? Like, why was that a passion for you from the get-go? whether your background was computer science or a teacher or whatever it might be. So what was it about real estate that was appealing from that standpoint? And then walk us through a little bit of just your first year specifically, right? What's one specific takeaway that you think you had in that year one that helped you get off to a fast start? You guys had different results in your first year, but all of you had pretty strong results fairly quickly as an agent. And so I'd like to kind of flush out that idea a little bit, and then we'll talk more after about kind of the progression of how things have gone. But we'll start there. Why real estate, and what was that first year like? We'll start with you, Craig, because I know you had some pretty impressive numbers there.
So how did it start, really? So my career before that was with Lowe's. Everybody knows Lowe's Home Improvement. So in college, I actually worked at the paint desk, mixing your paint for you. And out of college, they had an internship program with more nationwide sales, contractor sales, stuff like that, where we'd sell to Lennar and stuff like that. But with Lowe's, I actually transferred to Brandon at the time, and this was about 7 years ago. And with Lowe's, I felt like I had gotten to a point where I was at a ceiling. Like there was just not, they weren't expanding, there wasn't a lot of growth happening at that time. So at that time I said, well, I've always enjoyed real estate. I did flips on the side and stuff before that. But from that point, I was in a real estate class. I was taking real estate on the side at nighttime, and my instructor knew Tony Brony, and she introduced me to Tony. So that's how I got to meet him, and he was looking for a listing agent at the time, which was awesome, of course, just to jump right into listings. So got started with Tony. My first year, I would say, it was definitely, what I loved about Tony was it was really a good mentorship. So literally at 7:30, 8 a.m., we'd get into the office, and then me and him would work till 7 or 8 at night. So I didn't know any different, that we were just working 12-hour days. We were, after our appointments during the day, we were sending thank you cards, all that stuff. So it was kind of we ate lunch together, we had Belvita bars together. I mean, we were, I was his second wife, he calls. So, but what was cool about that was I was able to see how a professional that does a really good job, how he does his business. And then I was just really able to mimic that in a sense. So that's kind of how I started.
Cool, thank you.
I sold software for a little over a decade, so I had a sales background, but homes was something I was always interested in. So I'd be up till 3 in the morning on Houzz or Pinterest or whatever I could do, where I was looking at home and garden magazines or anything that had homes in it. And I'm also born and raised in St. Pete, so I have just a natural love for our area, and it was fitting. I don't know, I've always wanted to be in real estate. I love it. I don't think it's a job. I mean, I truly love what I get to do every day, and I hope that that reflects on my clients. Like, I hope they see that. I feel like I'm the worst person to ask about this, but when I got into the business, I remember asking advice for people, and they would always tell me to set boundaries. My first year, I had none. I worked constantly, and I think the thing that for me is, because of the sales background, the sales training was really important. So I did all the basic things. I mean, I knocked on doors all the time. I picked up the phone all the time. I reached out to my sphere. I did all those basic things, and I did it for probably a solid 3 years before it started to calm down. But I felt like I worked 24 hours a day, but I was also loving it. So I feel like that's kind of, maybe it's not the best advice, but that was definitely something I didn't have, was boundaries when I first started.
So I didn't really have a career before real estate. I started because I got divorced and had to get a job. So I had a real estate license already, and I had a teaching degree, and so I thought I was going to give real estate 6 months. And I had 5 young children that I was the main supporter of. So I, similar to you, I worked so hard the first year. I didn't have a mentor. I went to like 100% brokerage where there was no training or anything like that, so I figured everything out on my own. But I think so many people get caught up in like everything has to be perfect and I have to have this great business, but you really just have to do the work, and that's what I did. Like, I was kind of a train wreck the first year, but I was doing the work. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and then, everything else kind of just falls into place, I feel like.
my background came from 16 years IT background. So I worked at the USF from 2007. I worked at US for 7 years. And in 2014, I got another job in Murphy Cancer Center. So I have been always in IT for many years. I get used to sitting in the cubicle every day and have a weekly meeting and talk about the programming, the database, all those kind of stuff. I never realized like someday I will quit on my job and become a full-time realtor. So my interest in real estate came from like 2009, 2010. At that time, I just got to Tampa Bay. I drive to USF to work every day. I see people holding the board and said the house for sale. So I read some data, like the data showing in 2007, like many condos sold like 200,000. But in 2009 and 2010, the price reduced to 40 to 50,000. Okay, that's the first knowledge I have about the real estate. So in my mind, I think, oh, that's the best time, probably the time to buy real estate. Okay. At that time, I didn't even have money. I work at USF. My wife is also a professor at USF. How much we can make at USF, at that time, right? So I started to borrow the money from a credit card. So just in January 2010, I purchased 3 condos. That's how I started to do the real estate investment. So at that time, the condo is like a 40,000, less than 50,000. You can rent for $800 a month. If you calculate the math, no matter how, that's a really good investment. All right. So that's how I started to do a real estate investment. And gradually, many of my friends nearby, they always ask me, oh, is this a good buy? They ask for my opinion. Is that a good investment or not? So I keep giving people the suggestion where and how to buy real estate investment. And they keep asking me about the handyman, plumber, air conditioner. Okay. Then they ask, when they ask me if this is a good buy or not, I refer this business to some other realtors. Okay. Then when I have more and more those kind of situation, I realize, okay, I need to get my own license now. So I got my license in 2018. So in 2018, the first year, many agents like me, you started from a part-time agent, right? You have your full-time job. You need to go to work from 9 to 6, sitting in the cubicle. So in the lunch break time, I make some phone calls with my friends. I said, I have the license already. If you wanted to see the properties, I can show you in the weekend. So that's how I started after I get the license, started the business. In 2018, I only sold, I think maybe 5 properties. That's my first year. But in 2019, I sold about over 30 properties. Still doing that part-time. So in 2020, guess what? In 2020, I sold about over 60 properties. So every year seems doubled. So at the end of 2020, I realized I have to quit my full-time job at Murphy. So yeah, at that time, I'm a supervisor in the business intelligence and data analytics team. I manage about 7 to 8 people working in a team. So I'm pretty good at the data analysis. So it also benefits me doing the data analysis in real estate. Then in 2021, so after I quit my full-time job in 2021, I partnered with some companies in other states like California, New York, New Jersey, Boston. I started to do a little bit of social media networking and to get to work with other brokerage. So in 2021, I sold over 200 homes in that year. Right. So that's how I started real estate, where my interest come from, and how I become the real estate agent.
They got an ovation already. That's pretty impressive. We don't get that all the time, Larry. That's pretty good. So, a couple quick things. You'll notice if you listen to the stories, even so far, the 4 on there, it's very different, right? So there's not one specific path, as you can see, to be successful in real estate, which I think one of the things that many people love about real estate is you can find your way, you can find your path, as long as you actually work that path. You see some similarities with just putting your head down and going at it with really no support, like Laura was talking about and like Bailey said, right? Not a ton of support, not looking for a mentor necessarily, but just going at it and working hard. I think we all agree if you work hard enough, you'll figure it out, right, along the way. But we also had Craig, who a very different path. You know, the first thing that got him into it was finding that mentor. And we've heard that many times actually on this panel, the importance of, especially when you're newer, finding a mentor and wanting to work with that mentor, whether that's a team or whatever the case may be. And that's a different option, right? And it's obviously worked very well for Craig as well. And then Leigh's story is completely different, right? From somebody who just was an investor, doing really real estate as an investment, and then eventually as a part-time realtor, and then he just started, business started getting so strong that he had to quit his job and really became a full-time agent not until 2020, and then blow it up since then. So I share that because I think it's important for all of us to recognize that I like hearing the different stories because I know different people in the room can resonate with different things that you said. And the goal is for all of you to find hopefully one thing that you can relate to that and then move forward. I want to focus in on, so now that they've kind of heard the story and we talked about success in that first year, if you can think about, is there a specific focus item that you feel like was really important for you in year one and year two? And I would say for you, Leigh, would be your year one when you went full time, right? So say 2020, let's say. Is there something you could point out that said, this was probably for me the most important thing that I really needed to get good at, or I needed to focus on for me to get traction and start building where I'm at? And then a side part to that is, now that we're a couple of years in most cases for you guys, how has that evolved for year two, year three, and what you've built, since then? By the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but the way that the format flows for these questions is don't feel obligated that you have to answer every single question. So there will be some questions where we won't have all four of you share, and that's totally fine. We'll have the conversation be fairly organic. But I'm going to start with Leigh if you want to start on this side, and then anybody who feels like you can chime in will go there. Does that sound good, Leigh?
Okay, not a problem.
Go ahead.
Yeah. For my background, because most of my clients are investors, I would say in my last 6 years, 95% of my clients are investors. Some are local, some are from other states. So my opinion, my suggestion to the first year realtors, you have to learn about the market very well. When people ask you the question about the, let's say, Tampa Bay's current rental market and the price trend in the last few years, and for this house, 300,000, how much it can be rented, you have to be able to answer those questions very confidently. So that means you have to do lots of homework, do some data analysis, doing some research before you meet with the clients. Even the first year when I do the real estate part-time in 2018, I have some clients from other states that come to Tampa Bay, wanted to meet me, wanted to show the property. Okay, before I show them to the community, the day before, I even drove there and do some research about the community, get more the information, get the information about the property and the floor plan, get all those information first. Then the second day, when I meet with them, I feel more confident. I can, whenever they ask me the question, HOA, CDD, what will be the investment return, I have that in my mind already. Okay. My suggestion to some new agent, if you have a client from investment side, I would suggest you to do enough homework first and do not exaggerate the investment return. What I see a common error problem with the new agent, they did not do enough homework. They give the investors the higher investment return. So in 2018 or 2020, investors expect like 7 to 8% return. At that time, mortgage interest rate is like a 3%, 4%. You can easily find some home that put 25% down, you can get 7 to 8% return. But some realtors I see that give exaggerated the number. So when those clients they switch back to me, that talk to me about their story with some other agents, I see they did not give the true number. So for me, because I come from the computer science background, I have the spreadsheet even on my phone, on my Excel, on my computer. Whenever they want to ask me what will be the investment return, I can easily bring the formula and punch some number and show them the real investment return. So that's how I gradually build the trust from my first group of clients. Then after that, it's just keep having referral every day, every week. Even for now, every week I probably get over 10 leads from the referrals from the previous clients. So far I sold I have over 300 clients already. So these are my client base that every week they keep referring new clients. That's just because they trust me, they think my number give to them is real, is very close to the reality. That's my feeling. Thank you.
I forgot the question. I was so wrapped up in what he was saying.
Was there what would you say was the most important thing for you to focus on in year one, and has that evolved or changed into year 2, year 3, and beyond?
Similar to what he was saying, but a little different for me because I'm not primarily investment, but just knowledge of the market is so important. So many times I'll have agents call me from my listings and they don't know anything about the home, and I'm like, how did you not get some sort of information before you went there? So if you're meeting a buyer, you could take 15 minutes and just learn. So just knowledge, like have knowledge of the market, knowledge of the product that you're selling. That's very important. Something I did from the beginning. Also just, learn as much as you can about real estate in general. I read so many books, I still do, so many podcasts, just to learn how to run my business because I really had no idea, and I learned everything that way. But also hugely important to me from the very beginning was I kind of outlined exactly where I wanted to go every year. I set goals for myself, and I just feel like if you're not doing that, then you're kind of all over the place. So I still do it to this day. I look at it every morning, first thing when I get up, like my goals for the year, where I'm at with it. And I just think it's so important because if you don't know where you're going, then you're all over the place. And it's just was one of the things that I started from the very beginning, and I think it really helped me.
Or you can keep that mic on this
Okay.
side. We'll use that mic over there. Dilly, do you want to add anything on this question?
Sure. I would just say I think in the beginning it's trying to determine what you want out of this as a career. So I knew for me, being a wife and being a mom were always going to be the most important roles that I had in life. So, but I needed to make money. So my focus was more on the luxury side and doing higher end homes because I think last year, I listened to how many transactions you had or listings that you had on your second day. I'm nowhere close. I think I had 25 transactions last year, but I did like 43 million. So my goal was to always do higher end homes, do less transactions so I can still, volunteer at my kids' school and take them to practices and things like that. And that has always been my goal. So when I started, it was how can I surround myself with the best of the best? And I called all the top agents and I'm like, can I just ride with you? Can I just talk to you? Can I ask your thought on this? Can I ask your thought on that? And I was like a sponge. And so that was my goal from day one. And I'm getting there. I got a lot of work to do, but I think that was it. I set my eyes on what I wanted to be or how I wanted to get there, and I'm just trying to do that every day.
On mine, I would say it was really, I just considered no lead left behind. So what I would do is any appointments I went on, I just made sure I followed up with them. And my conversion wasn't the greatest the first year.
I kind of want them to be
But what I did every time was I called that seller and said, hey, I understand you went with this agent. What was the reasoning? What could I have done differently in my presentation? What could I have done to offer you? Was it something marketing we're not offering? What was it? And I was able to learn from each of those. Also, what was pretty cool from that was a lot of the other agents they interviewed didn't do that callback. So when that listing didn't sell with that first agent, they called me and I got the listing on the second time. So what was kind of cool is then they got to the price they probably should have been, or, as you guys know. But that was really what was cool is just from my sales background, I'm just one of those, I want to know why you didn't go with me, and then I'm going to work on how do I improve for the future.
Cool, good stuff. I'm gonna make a quick comment, but the next question I'm gonna dive into has to do with what you think some of your biggest challenges were in this journey, because I think we tend to learn a lot from things that we struggle with, right? And some of the failures that we've also had, as long as we're vulnerable enough to share them. And so if you want to think about that, we're gonna dive into that question next on the challenges side. But a couple things I jotted down. There was a common theme when it came to the importance of doing your homework, knowing research, and I think that's let's be real, no one wants to work with a real estate agent who doesn't know what they're talking about, right? And doesn't have any sort of data to back up their statements or their opinions. And so knowing your research, I think, is really, really critical, as you've mentioned. I also thought it was cool, I think it was Bailey that mentioned like her focus on luxury. I think it's one of the things I've seen as a common thread among the top producers that I've interviewed over the years, and I would say other agents, is top producers tend to have a focus area, and they understand what their niche is. And then they focus their energy around that niche, and they don't get distracted as easily, right? And so when they understand what that niche is, you heard Bailey mention it was luxury for her, and she's done a heck of a job serving that niche at a very, very high level. And because of that, she's gotten off to a good start and continues to grow her business year in and year out. And a lot of agents I've talked to who aren't yet top producers tend to get distracted a little bit easier, and they chase the shiny pennies. They go for this for a year, it didn't really work out, they try something different, and they just don't really ever allow something to get traction and to get momentum going. And I don't think you'll find that as a common thread among the top people. And so knowing your niche and exactly who it is you want to serve and why you want to serve them, and I think it makes sense to identify that as just something that's also fun, right, for you. I know people that do a great job serving veterans. Maybe it's first-time home buyers, maybe it's the luxury market, maybe it's investors, whatever it is, but figuring that out, right? Lay has a very cool niche with his investor community, and he serves it very well. All of you have different niches that you've served at very high levels. And then I think it was Craig who mentioned the importance of like just measuring your results and then making slight adjustments to make progress. In your first year, it really should be a learning experience about what lessons have you taken from that'll help you get better in year 2 and year 3 and keep building on those lessons as you keep moving forward. There's a great book out there I recommend called The Slight Edge. It's written by Jeffrey Olson, and it's really about the power of slight, small little adjustments compounding over time and the drastic effects that has on a business. And that's really what a lot of people do when they just make those slight little adjustments. Many times adjustments that other people don't even tell or can't even notice. But by making those slight adjustments, it makes drastic changes. So, all right, hopefully you had time to think a little bit about this next question, which is about challenges. I am a big believer that we learn a lot from our challenges, from our mistakes even, from our failures. Another one of my favorite books is Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what are some, even if it's just one, like what do you think is a specific challenge that you faced? Again, we can focus on your first year, but it doesn't have to be in year 1. It could even be in year 2 or 3 into the business at any point that you feel like that you've learned a lot from, right? A specific challenge that you learned something from, a lesson that you took from that, and that has helped you become a better agent as a result of that challenge. Who would like to go first? You can share more than one if you have a lot, but I figure one would do. Go ahead, Bailey.
I laugh at this because I feel like I'm very challenged in a lot of areas. But I have, and when I say challenge, I mean this is my 8th year and I'm still working on this. So I am horrible at databases. And I'm very old school, and so I like paper, even though I sold software. And so one of the things that I'm trying this year is to actually have one. I don't have one. I've never had one, and I really need to because I'm pretty sure it would help a whole lot. So that's something that I know is important, and I just have not really done it, but I'm going to, and I have started this year. And thanks. And I also, my other challenge was that I had never really done marketing. Like, I don't like pictures. This is incredibly terrifying for me. So this year, or last year actually.
Pictures.
So last year was the first time I took actual pictures, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So I'm trying this year again. Well, last year with the pictures, but this year I'm trying to jump out of my comfort zone and doing just things like this. So I'm hoping that will help too.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I think one of the challenges for me was when I first started, of course, there's a lot of rejection and getting your feelings hurt, and I had a really hard time with that. I could like spiral for days over it. So I think like getting a tough skin, and now I still get upset about things, but I will look back and try to think like, what could I have done better? And instead of getting sad and crying, I try to like figure out how I can make things better. But I just feel like it's such a difficult job because there's so much rejection. You have to put yourself out there on social media, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna post this, and then nobody even liked it, you know? So there's just a lot of things that you have to get past. And now I'm like, oh, everybody missed out on that cool post, you know? So you just have to get over that, and you can't let things bother you, because if I would have let things bother me, or I would have quit real estate. You know, I wouldn't have continued, because, so that's what I say, just like get a tough skin, and when you get rejected, take it as a learning lesson, figure out what you could have done better, and improve instead of getting sad.
Lenny or Craig, you want to add anything?
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Len.
Yeah, my biggest challenge, I think, at this moment is how to follow up, how to track with your like the previous clients, and also the new clients. Like every week, there's a minimum. I got 10 to 15 people call you and consult with you about the real estate market. They all say, I'm interested in Tampa Bay real estate investment, or even now I got more and more primary home buyer. So from the first phone call, it's just getting in touch that know you, you know them, or their requirement, their need. You write it down what they are looking for. You know, some are looking for $1 million, you know, ocean view home. Some are just focused on 300,000 townhouse. Some are okay for like a 400,000 single family house. So I make some small notes about the conversation right after I had a phone call with them. Okay, they all say that I'm interested. Whenever you have a home, you know, good investment, I will jump in, buy right away. But on the second week, I got more and more new phone calls like this. So after that, how you want to follow up with the people you talked with a few weeks ago, that gradually become to a bigger challenge to me. So then I gradually think there must be some like customer relationship management, and you can track all what you talk about before, and then how to CRM, yeah. But it also comes with another situation. Many times we drive on the road, you got phone calls when you are driving, right? So I bring up a phone call when I'm driving. I make a quick note about the voice. You know, some voice can convert to the text message automatically. I make a quick note there. So at the end of the day, I need to go over, I received some phone calls from blah, blah, blah. They wanted to look for some kind of a house. I need to summarize them to make some note. So this has become I would say, a burden to me. Because nowadays, the investment environment is not as good as before. Let's say in the 2021, 2022, 10 people called you, maybe like 6 people finally they purchased right away. But for now, 10 people called you, maybe only one or two people that purchased, right? For all the other 8 to 9 people, you still need to treat them with all your full energy to be with them. So how to organize the clients, how to follow up with them, that becomes my biggest challenge now. Awesome. This is something I want to say. Yeah, okay. I need to learn about that.
It saves my life.
Oh, okay.
What about all the people that want that 10,000 square foot home on the ocean for 300,000? Isn't that isn't that a lead source too that comes in, right? Craig, you have anything you want to add there?
I would just say some of my my toughest challenge, I think my first year was I had 3 contracts fall through in one day, and it was my only 3 contracts, and I was like him, I had credit card debt because you're just starting, stuff like that, and somebody told me at the time, and it might be cheesy, but they're like, you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough, and I thought that was really cool. And what I learned from that when I was looking back on those transactions was, I think sometimes we need to really truly find our clients' motivation, their goals. And I remember those deals, it was all inspection related, And some of them was like, oh, they asked for a $200 credit, and I'm like, hell no, we ain't giving them a $200 credit, But it was me. It wasn't really my clients. It was more my ego, I would say, trying to get them the best deal. So I learned kind of get to know my clients. What's their goal? If $200 makes sense to take it now instead of later on, if we're on the market for 30 more days and we reduce it $5,000, that $200 made sense. So that was something that I learned through that process.
Awesome, Craig. Appreciate sharing that story.
You lost a deal over $200?
This is my first year. That's my excuse, yeah.
I'm sure Tony loved that too.
He might have said a few things.
I wrote down another book recommendation. It's Never Lose a Customer Again. Some of you have heard me say that before. I've mentioned it multiple times, but the author's name is Joey Coleman. He talks a lot in that book about creating systems and automated systems, kind of like you were mentioning, Lay, to help you stay in front and nurture leads in kind of creative ways, like various different. The reality is we all have different forms of communication that we tend to relate to better, whether that's video or gifting or personal phone calls or even snail mail or whatever it is. And so how to create strategies using all of these different forms to try to reach people in different ways and stand out in the crowded marketing landscape. And so that's just another great resource if you'd like to check it out. Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. I should get paid for some of these book recommendations. So I need to become an affiliate. Yeah, that's a good point. Next question I have is, some of you, I know, like you have an experience, Craig, in working in a team, right? A bigger team. And I've seen, I'm sure, agents come and go, right, in that team. Some of you might not be in the team approach, but I know you're a broker now, Lay, and you've done your recruiting and you're building your team and you've seen agents come and go as well. I'm curious, all of you are obviously affiliated with some particular brokerage, and I'm sure have seen agents who are really good and maybe agents that aren't in your organization. What are some of the most common or even biggest mistakes that you see agents make that you think really hinders their ability to become a real producer? And again, we could focus in that when they're new, right, in that first year, but it doesn't have to just be in year one. But just some common mistakes, things that you think you've been exposed to that you've seen maybe more than once as reasons why some agents really struggle to ever become a real producer. Who would like to go first? Laura is eager on this one. Let's go ahead, Laura.
This drives me crazy every day. My first deal ever, I did it with the top producing agent in my area, and I was like, oh my gosh, and he was so great to work with, and I just listened to everything he said because I was just so happy to even be working with him. And then at the end of the deal, I told him it was my first deal. But so many times when I primarily list houses, so when I'm dealing with another agent, they'll just be so hard-headed, and I know how to close, I know exactly what we should do to close the deal, but they're so, they won't listen to me, they think they know everything, and I'm just like, my gosh, we're gonna lose this deal because of your ego, here. And then I'll look them up and I'm like, wow, they sold 2 homes in 24 months. And I'm like, I sold 2 homes this morning, just listen to what I'm telling you. So I just think it's when you're new, you've gotta just drop that whole thing, okay, I'm new. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I want to work and I want to sell houses instead of this. I'm going to be number one. It's just everything goes better for people. I feel like if they have that other attitude, then you can change your attitude and be like, I'm the best. But when you start, you have to just be a little less. Drop the ego a little bit. I think
agents have egos. That's an interesting concept.
Especially the newer ones. I'm like, my gosh.
Anybody else?
I would just say I feel like there are so many obviously there are so many good agents out there. But I think that people coming into the business have this perception that it's so glamorous and you don't have to work and you're gonna get a $30,000 check and you don't have to work nights and weekends, and it's so false. You're gonna work 7 days a week, and the times when you don't wanna work is when everybody else wants to see a house. And I missed birthdays and I missed a lot. So I think the misconception for people coming in is they think it's so easy, and it is, like you said, it's rejection, it's working hours that you don't wanna work, it's talking on the phone or being on your computer on family vacations, if you even get to go away your first few years because you're just constantly working. But I think you have to put in that work, and then you see the rewards and you can build from there. But you've gotta, you gotta hustle and you gotta be hungry. And if you're not, you will fail, because there's too many of us that are hungry and really, really want it.
Craig?
I'd say from what I've seen with agents coming in, just like she said, is where they're like, oh, I get to go into real estate and make my own schedule. You do, but you actually have to work. So, like she said, it's just, you've got to put in the time. Over the years, I think it sounds like we're all kind of in the same boat. You got to figure out that time management a little bit along the way. But I mean, Tony definitely, I saw a lot more than my wife and kid at the time. I only have one, so I mean, God bless you guys. But what I would say is they just have a misconception. You still have to work. It's like any job. You have to. It's hard work. It's very rewarding though when you're on closing day, like you said. But I would say the biggest thing is they just need to realize that you're gonna have to put in the time and the effort, just like any other job.
Lady, have anything different?
Okay, yeah. So here, this is what I hear from some of my my clients' feedback. Some of them that come to me, that tell me that worked with some other agents before. They feel they got pushed to get the deal done. So this is very common to the new agent. They want to get the deal done, They make the client don't feel very comfortable when they show the property. They always talk about the good thing about the property, the good thing about the community. They did not tell the entire, good and bad. So I have heard many stories from the clients when they come back to me and say, oh, I worked with some other agents before. They are talking different way from you. You talk about both the good thing or bad thing, if this is a good investment or a bad investment. So I think that's very important to the new agent. You need to learn the market and have the knowledge, and also need to gradually learn the skill, like personality, the people skill, how to talk with people. Don't feel people get pressure, get pushed to get the deal done.
Awesome. Quick announcement. I guess security just said that there might be like a white BMW parked below. I think that's in the garage. Is that correct? Yeah, in the garage where the trunk is open, so you're just kind of, everything's flailing around back there. So if you wanted to take care of that, if that's anyone in the room, if you have a white BMW, your trunk is wide open. Okay. Yes, and that's not like a euphemism. I think your trunk is literally open. Okay.
And that's on Facebook.
Yeah, so that's
on
too.
Facebook.
All right, so. We have time maybe for 2 more questions, but a couple quick things. I thought there was some real cool stuff that you guys just flushed out. One being, I loved your point, Laura, about not viewing the other agent as a competitor, right? And viewing it as a collaboration between you and that agent. Again, that's another common theme that comes up a lot in my interviews, I think, with these top producers. It's just the mentality of how they view other agents. A lot of the top people, even if some of you in this room might have had a bad experience with a top producer, don't assume that that means that that's how all top producers operate or think. In my experience, most of the top producers really value the collaboration. And I think that helps them be successful in that space. And their attitude, I think, is aligned with that. And you really should view it as a partnership between you and whoever that other agent is, so that the fact is that the alignment is in getting to the closing table, right? So you guys are both in it together from that standpoint. And then we heard a couple themes regarding wrong expectations being set. I don't care what business you're in, if you're working with clients, it's always a failing proposition to set wrong expectations, right? So, and that ties into what Lay said too, which I kind of took what Lay was saying as like agents who are overselling, right? Maybe because they're desperate. We all know what that probably feels like at times, of like, with credit card debts or having to pay the bills, and that makes sense. But we all know what commission breath also smells like. And when you're an agent and you're overselling, that is not going to allow clients to really feel like they're being treated the way they should, right? So these are common themes that I think have come up, and sometimes it's just a good reminder even for people to take a little check up from the neck up, we say, to see if that's even been something that you've been guilty of at times. Okay, 2 more questions. One is, I think a big reason why agents succeed is just their philosophies on how they get out there, right? What did they do to market? Some people have really big ad budgets and have certain things that they invest in regularly. Other people don't do that at all, and it's been all word of mouth and only word of mouth, and that's all they've ever done, and it's been organic. And then there's a lot that are somewhere in between, right? Whether it's open houses has been their thing or whatever it is. So I'm curious if we can just get a couple thoughts from you guys, maybe just about 2 minutes each, maybe 3 minutes each we have time for, on just your philosophy when it comes to marketing, branding. Has that even changed at all over the years versus where you were in year 1 versus where you are now? What's really worked well for you? What do you love to do? Who would like to go first? Craig, we'll start with you this time.
Sounds great. So social media, once you get to know me, and even if you look at my social media, you'll see my face probably 1 out of 500 posts. So it's definitely not my niche on that. I will say I do Facebook and Instagram. I actually had a past client where she was trying to grow her business, so she helps me with that. But really from that standpoint, I've come from just trying to add value, what's going on in Tampa Bay, what's going on in the housing market, what she's pushed on me the past year, which a lot of us have heard, is do reels and videos. So I would definitely recommend that. But honestly, what's drove my business the most is reviews and referrals. Just getting reviews, and then at each closing, I'm asking, hey, I'm now unemployed since we've closed. I'd love to get your friends and family or anybody I'd love to replace you with one of them. So that sounds bad, replace you, but it's worked. It's worked.
Let's get rid of you.
They know my quirkiness, so it works out. But that's what's worked for us is reviews and referrals.
I would say for me, your relationships. I haven't until this year when I'm trying to start, but everything to me is relationships, and it's from your inspector to the title company to the lender. Is just be somebody that other people want to work with or for, because everybody talks, and I don't want to be one of the listing agents where people don't want to show my listing because they can't stand me and don't want to work with me. And I hear people that won't go specifically to this house because they can't stand this agent, and that's terrible. So I think your clients are choosing you for a reason. So my biggest thing is to be somebody that other people want to work with, and treating it as not as it's a transaction, but every deal, whether it's a $35,000 deal, mobile home, or it's a $10 million house, every person that you're dealing with has to feel just as important. And that's with anything we do, but in real estate it's massive because you're dealing with some people's emotions. You're dealing with women who it's their family home, they raise all their children in it, they don't want to leave, the husband wants to sell it. You've got so-and-so's, parents have died, they've taken over their home. There's so much emotion that can go into real estate. So I think you have to be empathetic to that, but again, just be somebody that other people want to work with.
I think another thing, just to say something different than what they've said, is if you want to find things that work for you, I'm constantly trying new things. I just try something new. If it works, I add it to what I do daily. If it doesn't work, I get rid of it. So, and I think too, you're better at the things that you feel more comfortable with. Like Craig said, you will see my face all over my Facebook. So just do whatever you're comfortable with and just constantly try new things. I'll try this little thing and it'll get me like 10 deals a year, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I'll just add it to everything else that I do. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I would say marketing is currently is even my weakest point. In the last few years, I feel like I got most of business from referrals. So I spend most of the time with existing clients or new clients. I did not get much chance to do the heavy marketing, even social media or that. I have some, but not a lot. But now, since I'm a broker, I have 10 agents in my team now. Now I'm thinking how to grow the business, how to grow together, and to be more scalable, not just rely on myself. So now I started to spend some more time to train the new agents and how we want to do some marketing in social media, the video, the pictures sent everywhere to get more business. But if we get more business, I will have to figure out a way to have my new agents to have that knowledge and the capability to serve more and more clients. That's something in my mind for this year regarding marketing.
Awesome. One of the things I've learned even about like Tony Baroni's team has been you guys really do have a very intentional focus on reviews and your ability to get them, I think, very often as a system within your listing appointments. If you're somebody who would like to get better, I think, at just creating something like that for your business that has to do with Google reviews, Craig would be a great person, I think, to talk to about something like that. Because, I mean, from my perspective, I've seen Tony talk about that in detail, and you guys have some pretty cool things you do to make that a systematic process in your business. And so he might, I don't know if Craig can hang out for lunch a little bit today, but if you might want to pick his brain a little bit on that, or really, I guess anybody as part of Tony's team could be good to talk to about that. But you guys do a great job of that from what I've seen as an outside perspective. Want to say something?
I can, yeah.
Or just thank you?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I will say one of the things that makes us a little unique, in our listing presentation, we bring up that, and we call it the promise, it's our mission. We promise to give you the best real estate experience. But during my listing presentation, I say, once our job is to deliver the promise, which is the best real estate experience. And at the end of that, once we've earned that, then we ask for a review and a referral. So we just kind of lay the groundwork, and then through the transaction, we're talking about it. So then on closing day, a lot of the time we have the review before even closing day, which is awesome because, as we know, closing days don't always happen perfectly. So, and that's when you can lose the review sometimes too. So if you can get it during the transaction, especially when they're happiest, that's another way to try to get the review before something could go sour too. So.
Yeah, it's a great tip. And there's like a law of reciprocity there, because if they have a great experience, it's almost, you created the expectation that they're going to give something back in return, right? And I think that's how business should operate, it's always a give and take process. Okay, we probably have time for maybe one more question here. So I was curious of your opinions on what opportunities do you see that you're excited about for the rest of this year in 2024 or even beyond? It could be market specific, or it could just be specific to your business, like something that you're working on, that you're excited about, that you're going to grow with, maybe something changing if there is anything changing in your business. But what opportunities do you have that you're fired up about? What gets you excited when you think about moving forward? Who can go on this one? Go ahead, Bailey.
So I recently switched brokerages, and I am with Next Home Lux Coastal. And for me, the reason why I went there, one of the big reasons was, and it's kind of what I've tried to stand by in all of my years of doing real estate, is their motto is humans over houses. And I love that. I love being able to do things for people and making them feel comfortable in the process, because like I said, I feel like I do deal a lot with the family homes, or the people that the homes mean so much, and it's an emotional leave, and I want to be able to give them the experience that they can feel comfortable, and I take the stress away as much as I can, or the worry, but I'm not treating it as I've got to be number one, I've got to make this deal, I've got to be this or that. I don't really care so much about any of that. I just want to make sure that I'm treating the people better than the deal. And that's something that I'm really excited about the new brokerage, is because I feel like that's something that they get it, but they promote it. So I'm really happy to be a part of something like that now.
Very cool. Find a brokerage that fits your goals, right? And your aspirations. Anyone else? Something that fires you up? Lay?
I want to talk about something about the opportunities maybe for this year. Just from my communication with the investors from other states, I feel like this year and next year might have some opportunities in the multifamily business. So for now, probably most of the agents are in a residential single-family house buy and sell. But from the feedback and also some data, it shows this year it may have some distressed multifamily coming into the market. For example, the multifamily they purchased like 5 years ago, they only secured the locked the interest rate for 3 years or 5 years. I have already gradually see some of the investors like that, they have to refinance their multifamily. Their interest rate is like a 7, 8, or 9 now. So people predict in the next 2 years there might be opportunities in that market. It's just my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to buy that portfolio myself. So I've been looking at those opportunities, and I definitely see the same pattern. Anybody else?
Excited about these lower interest rates once those come. I think that'll obviously help with the market quite a bit as we see inventory increasing. But I mean, that's what I would say. I'm most excited about lower interest rates.
Cool. I love it. Last thing we'll do very quick, rapid fire, is there, this is a question I sometimes ask on our podcast, but is there a favorite book or author or seminar that has made a huge impact on you personally or professionally that you can just share rapid fire? Anything come to mind?
Mine has always been The Millionaire Agent.
The Millionaire Agent?
Yeah.
Who wrote that? No, I'm joking. Yes. Okay, that's always a classic. Anybody else? Going once? Awesome. All right, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. All right, if we can have Eric just, we're going to take a quick picture with you guys on stage, then we'll be all set. So we're all wrapped up here. Whiskey Cake is a great host. I just wanted to shout them out. If we can give them a round of applause for being a host here. Of course, they would love to have you stay for lunch, and if you'd like to pick the brain of any of these panelists, they're going to be hanging out as well. It's a chance for you to meet them and follow up with any questions that you might have. Like I said, to start, if you don't follow us at all or subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do. We'd love to have you subscribe to our podcast. That's something we're really working hard on bringing great content for. And so hopefully we can see you guys there. And we'll see you next month, which is going to be, the topic next month is focusing on new construction. So building, I forget the exact title, but it's something like building with new construction. So we'll have some panelists who really specialize in that space, and that'll be our topic for next month, and you can see the rest of our topics on our website. You guys have a great rest of your day. We will check you later.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do one.